You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now present the Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi.
Welcome to the Health Hub on Radio Maria Canada, exploring cutting-edge health and wellness information and therapies, helping you to take your health to the next level. I'm your host, Kathy Biasi, and I am a holistic nutritionist and a professional cancer coach. The dream versus the reality of retirement can catch many off guard if a solid plan is not in place. The thought of escaping the daily grind, the freedom to do what you want whenever you want, can seem like the just rewards for years of hard work. But the reality is that for many new retirees, the novelty of being on permanent vacation starts to wear off and can trigger stress, anxiety, and even depression. On today's show, we are talking about how to navigate retirement successfully with our guest, Mike Drak. Mike is a 38-year veteran of the financial services industry. He started his own Victory Lap in 2014 and is currently working with his wife, an investment advisor, helping her clients design their own fulfilling retirement lifestyles. Mike is a best-selling author, award-winning blogger, public speaker, and retirement lifestyle designer. His bestseller, Victory Lap Retirement, was based on the realization that traditional full-stop retirement doesn't work for most people anymore due to increasing longevity. The book presents a new model better suited to today's reality. His follow-up book, Retirement Heaven or Hell, Which Will You Choose?, shares some of Mike's personal experiences in retirement and highlights how people can design and transition to their own unique retirement lifestyle. This book also outlines the valuable retirement lessons learned from the pandemic and introduces 9 retirement principles that can support creating a long, healthy, and fulfilling life. And Mike's newest book is called Longevity Lifestyle by Design, and it can be downloaded for free by everyone using the link longevitylifestylebydesign.com. Today, we're talking about what retirement shock is, drivers of healthy retirement, what the difference between retirement planning and longevity planning, everything around that transition into retirement. We even get into some of Mike's personal stories, his training for Ironman. So do stay tuned. We will be back in just a few minutes to talk with Mike.
You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now continue with the program, The Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's show has been pre-recorded. No opportunity for calling in. Please do follow us on our social sites. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we are at the Health Hub RMC on those locations. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Kathy.
It's a pleasure. Long time coming for sure. Let's jump right into it. Okay, you've got these great books out. Your newest book, Longevity Lifestyle by Design, is a free offering that we'll definitely talk about. But retirement is obviously the center to all of these books. Why is traditional retirement not working anymore for most people? Why are we not just flowing into the golden years?
You know what? It would be nice to be able to do that, but a lot of us are finding that quite challenging. I think it was just missold to us. You know, we have the advertisers out there. They're selling us on their version of retirement, really, that you're supposed to retire and stop and take it easy and enjoy a life of leisure. And a lot of us are having trouble with that because we need more than that. We need challenges in our life. We need a new source of purpose and things like that. And unless we find those things, we're going to struggle. And that's exactly what happened to me. when I retired, life was great for about 2 weeks. And I'll never forget it. One morning, I think it was a Monday morning, I was sitting there in front of the TV. My wife, Melina, had gone to work. I was all by myself, and I was flicking through these stations. I don't know. I got like 500 stations or something. I couldn't find anything interesting to watch.
You supposedly be able to do that.
You would think so.
You would think so.
And I was sitting there and I was feeling miserable. I was feeling lonely and isolated because all my friends were still working. And I didn't feel like doing any of the fun things I used to enjoy doing, like, riding my bike or going fishing and things like that. I just felt like sitting on that couch and being miserable. And that really kind of concerned me. And I didn't understand why I was feeling that way. And what really bothered me was that, my wife, she's pretty smart. She reminds me about that all the time. And my friends, no one could understand why I was unhappy. They automatically thought that, how can Mike be unhappy? Because he doesn't have to work anymore. And the truth is, the reason I was unhappy was because I wasn't working anymore. And I needed to find something new to do. And until I did that I was having a problem. So my misery, or we can call my depression or retirement shock, wasn't caused by money issues or anything like that. It was caused by not being able to find new purpose in my life.
Is it how we define ourselves that causes this transitional issue?
Well, what happens is that, we all have different fundamental needs. We're born with these needs and they're unique to each of us. Many people have the same needs, but, they're stronger in some people than others. So I have a very strong need for identity. When someone refers to me as being retired, it drives me crazy because it doesn't mean anything to me, right? And I have a strong need to achieve and to accomplish. I have a very strong need to help others. That's why I ended up writing a book and decided to give it away for free. And I have a need for significance. I want to do meaningful things. I want to matter. I still want to contribute in this world. And just because I'm classified as retired doesn't mean I can stop doing those things, because if I stop, it's going to cause me, both mentally and physically. It's going to ruin me. And that's why a lot of people suffer from retirement shock. You see very successful people that have a lot of money suffer from it. And, the facts are one in three retirees will suffer from it.
Ageism is a topic that is popping up all over the place. And this number 60, again, another number that a lot of people just want to have considered as the next decade. And I think, there's so many confluences coming together here to push the drive that you are in the seat of. To me, coming from the health space, one of the big areas that I think has opened up this idea of planning for retirement is a better understanding how the brain functions. Years ago, it was, at a certain age, you're wired, that's your wiring, that's it, you're done. But we know now that the brain can always learn, it can always change, it can always adapt. And that has to be, considered when we talk about transitioning out of one significant space in our life to another. Is that something you agree with, or is that not part of the argument?
Totally. It's a big part of it. And we see this in people. Some people, we refer to them as growers. They have a strong need to grow and learn and experience new things. If they are blocked from doing that, they're going to decline quickly, both mentally and physically, because they need to have their mind challenged. They need to, work on new things and keep challenging their mind, or, decline will set in and it can really speed up. So yeah, it's so important. And you can see people, they retire, they're growers, but they're prevented from doing that. And they look like, it's almost like they're one of the Walking Dead. They don't know what to do. And you can see them, they get old real fast, both mentally and physically. And you want to prevent that. And that's part of the reason for writing the books.
And this is an aspect of taking control of your own health. Like, and you look at, I think it is opening up. I think it is opening up for people to be able to learn to grow past the age of 60. I started a new career when I was close to 50. And I didn't feel my only disadvantage was the thought that could I do it? And, you plant that seed and, you've got to jump that hurdle. But I think things are opening up. And it's, the other aspect of retirement that I have seen is not just this inability to do what you've done before and the inability to learn and grow, but this aspect of being pulled out of society and the social setting you've been used to for so many years. We saw it just recently with the pandemic, how loneliness can impact people. Is that something that needs to be taken into consideration when we know that the work part of our life is going to come to an end?
Well, yes, because you have to recognize, and smart retirees will know about this, in that, work feeds your fundamental needs. It feeds all those things I talked about. It gives you a sense of achievement, accomplishment. It forces you to learn new things. It gives you a sense of connection because you're working with customers and you're working with other people. When you go to work, you might be on a team. These are all longevity drivers that are satisfied through work. And, yet work gets tainted with this bad thing that work's bad, and the sooner you can retire, the better it is for you. And that's not the case. So what we want to do is maybe step back and say, okay, there's some attributes of work that are healthy for me. So how can I replicate that in this retirement period? Where can I find a new source? And this is why we talk about finding a new source of purpose is so important. Just like you did when you created your podcast. You could have retired, but no, you felt the need to do something else, to be challenged. And sure, a lot of people are trying new things and they're scared because they've never done it before. And that's why we try to write as many stories about people that are doing the same thing and have succeeded, and why they succeeded. And, once they tried and they got into it and they started pushing, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, the fear's a big blocker.
It is a big blocker. Do you find, in your research and your studies, one of the contributors to your newest book is Susan Williams, and she's talking about retirement realities for women. Now, are we talking here specifically from the workforce, or is this kind of interwoven with empty nesters, mothers whose children are leaving the house? Is it the kind of thing?
She tried to cover it all off because it impacts everyone. And there's different risks because, there's studies been done that say that women in general aren't as financially strong or prepared for retirement as men are. And there's a number of reasons there. One of my big concerns is it seems a lot of women aren't well versed in investing and saving for retirement because there's a division of roles. And normally the man ends up doing the investment and the lady will do something else. Maybe the deal is, okay, I'll do the cooking and cleaning or something like that. And that costs them, because what happens if your husband passes away? Because, normally that on average, men will outlive their husbands. And then they're left holding the bag. And if they don't know how to manage the investments and things like that, they could be very vulnerable. So these are things that Susan, is trying to make a woman aware of, to say, hey, you have to be prepared because these things are going to be coming down the road at you. And if you're not prepared for them, it could cost you large, right?
It can. But do you see the impact with women as strongly as men? I guess the impact could be different. I guess is it more of a financial issue with women and more a psychological one with men? Is it a mishmash of everything?
Well, if you want to talk about men, they're a special animal. And men struggle more. I would make this argument. They struggle more with transitioning to retirement. And one of the main reasons is that they don't want to admit they're suffering or they're vulnerable, because we've been raised on watching like Clint Eastwood or John Wayne. You're supposed to be tough like a hockey player, and you don't want to admit you're hurting. You don't want to admit that, hey, I'm retired and I'm suffering from retirement shock. I don't know what to do. So like I was sitting on that couch. I just sat there, want to be by myself and not admit I was hurting. And that's the wrong thing. You want to get out and be able to talk to people and say, hey, I'm suffering from this. What can I do? And there's strength in numbers. And it's important to share your stories and learn from others. And that's what we're encouraging men to do. And another thing that men are vulnerable is that most of their friends are work friends. Mm-hmm. And when they retire, they have to replace that, or it's going to cost them.
And that's hard to do as an adult, right? That it's hard to make new friends as an adult. As a retiree, I would say.
Yeah, but especially so for men. So what they do is they lean on their spouse and they say, "You're my best friend. I want to do everything you do." And they start falling around the house like a lost puppy dog, and it's not good for either one, right?
Well, what are the first steps you would encourage people to take in planning for the retirement? And, probably corollary to that question is, how far back in the age chain do we need to start planning for retirement?
I would encourage people to start thinking about it in the 50s, because, it takes time to prepare and to figure things out, to do it properly. And I'm not talking about the financial side. That's important on itself, but I'm talking about the psychological challenges they'll be facing. And, it's important to figure out what type of retiree you are. And we discussed this in the book. We came up with 3 different types of retirees that have all their specific needs that need to be satisfied. And it's important to understand how you're wired. You mentioned that before, and what you need to do in order to be happy in retirement. And it's extremely important to find a new source of purpose that will work for you, or purposes. It could be more than one. And then find a way to execute on that source of purpose. And it takes time to do that. To find out what's right for you. But when you do it right and you find that new sense of source of purpose, it's something you could do for the rest of your life. It's just like, again, it's like you doing the podcast, or me turning into a writer and a lecturer about retirement. It's something that what we love to do, and we plan to keep continuing to do it. And it makes us feel good about ourselves and gives us a good reason to get out of bed in the morning, something every retiree needs. So yeah, you need to put a lot of thought into it. And that's the reason behind the books, is just to educate people and say, hey, these are things you need to think about. What I'm encouraged about is I'm seeing all these new courses being offered by universities and community colleges. And really, they're just to help people transition to retirement and to help people find new purpose. And I think it's just wonderful that you could end up going to school and come up with a new degree, a purpose degree. And then you can hit the ground running and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. It's really going to make me happy, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with this retirement, instead of just sitting back and watch the world go by. Right?
Going into the mind space of the Western world, this little esoteric thing here. Aging population isn't valued, right? It's just not valued as it is in the Eastern world. Do you see that changing, or are we creating our own value and just going with it?
I think right now we're creating our own value, but people are starting to wake up to it. And it's a change that has to occur. And we're seeing more and more of it all the time, where we're seeing intergenerational, learning, people of all ages going to university now. and different age groups working together and learning from one another. That's being encouraged a lot. So people are really waking up to it. But yeah, you got to respect each other, older people and millennials and things like that, because you all bring different skills and experiences to the table that everyone can leverage. And it's so important. And it's changing, but it's changing slowly. People are starting to catch on, but it's very, very important for sure.
Well, it is important because I think the older population has a wisdom that is just not tapped into as it should be. Right. And I think that it's something honestly, I think the younger generation is starting to do that. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's social media. Maybe it's because we can connect easily to each other. I don't know what it is. As an older population, we can throw ideas out there. And if they stick to the wall, that's something that anybody can grasp onto. So there's so many confluences that are going on here that are pushing in this direction of, giving some meaning to getting older. And I think, not being afraid of aging and not being afraid of retirement is a key kicker that a lot of us have to get over. Is that something that you see as a main focus here?
No, I agree. But, if you, and this is why it's so important to have this, identify a new source of purpose. If you have that and you're busy doing something that you love to do, you're not going to have time to worry about all these other things.
Yeah. That's very true.
It's the same thing like when you're working full time. You're busy. You don't think about these things. But I'll tell you, if you're sitting down there in front of a TV and your mind's wandering, whatnot, that's when it sinks in. That's when people get scared. Yeah. One of the things I'm excited about, and you just mentioned it, was we have all this potential, all these untapped resources, experienced people sitting on the sidelines retired. And if we can tap into that and use it for, doing something good in the world, like people, volunteering and lending their experience and teaching people things they know, we can make the world such a better place. But, we're still struggling with that.
Well, I think to the dichotomy between the technology age and the retirement age, there's such a spread of different types of knowledges. I think the smart people are jumping on board and understanding that there's so much wisdom to be had from the people that grew up in a different way. And I think I do see that light at the end of the tunnel opening up. Mike, we're just going to take a quick break here. We'll be back, everybody, in just a few minutes to continue this conversation.
You are listening to The Health Hub here on Radio Maria Canada, a Catholic voice wherever you are. To contact us and be a part of the show, email thh@radiomaria.ca. We now continue with the program. Here once again is your host, Kathy Biasi.
Welcome back, everybody. Mike, before we start getting into how you created the ideal retirement place for yourself, let's talk about a little bit more of the technical things, the 3 drivers of a healthy retirement. That's something that it's very important to you. So can you kind of go through those for us?
Sure. These are the 3 that I focus on, and the purpose behind it is I want to live a long and healthy life, and I want to be happy. And if I can, cover off these 3, I got a good chance of making that happen. And so the first one is relationships. It's so important. There's been so many studies on this that, relationships play an important role in our life. And, if you end up being isolated, like a lot of people do, and not having a lot of friends around, increases the risk of mortality up to 40%, which is significant, right? So these are things I think about, and I make sure, I work at home, I write books, I'm isolated a lot. I just make sure I get out there and talk to as many people as I can. And I build these relationships. I get involved in a lot of charity things, so I'm around people all the time because it's important to both my mental and physical health. And, people have to be aware of that. And it's such an easy trap to fall into when you retire. Mm-hmm. It's just isolating your home and staying around the house and not talking to people. And you got to be really careful with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next one is my health. I'm focused on that all the time. I just got back from Italy, a trip to Italy, and I noticed a lot of people that are traveling there are retirees because they have the money to afford to do it. Mm-hmm. And you can look at the diversity in the health of these retirees. Some are very healthy. They can carry their suitcases, even though they might be in their 70s and 80s. And they're the ones that throw the backpacks on and they're going on all these tours. Because in Italy, you have to walk up and down all the time. And, they're very, very healthy. And then you see others that aren't. They're overweight, and then you can, they're suffering some kind of maybe illness or something. And even cognitively, they're a lot slower. They're not energetic. You don't see the energy and things like that. And I say, well, I got to be careful. I don't want to be like that. I want to travel as often as I can. And, I want to be active and I want those energy levels. So that's why I'm out there, and I'm basically working out a minimum 2 hours a day. I'm getting my 10,000 steps in the weight room. I'm swimming and riding a bike and things like that, just towards that goal of remaining healthy as long as I can. So it's an important goal for me. And the third one, and I keep coming back to this one, is it's important to have a good reason to get out of bed in the morning. So that's why it's so important to find a new source of purpose for yourself. One that gets you excited, one that you love to do, and preferably one that will end up allowing you to help others. Because when you help others, really you're helping yourself, and it really makes you feel good inside. So focusing on those 3 longevity drivers, you'll benefit greatly from that.
Now, you're an expert in this area. You've written the books. But as a society, how are we dropping the ball on this? Should there be, as people are heading into retirement, even within companies, should there be something to help with the transition?
Yes, there should be. And this is the problem, number one. You have the advertisers on TV and even the banking industry. They're selling their version of retirement, that you're just supposed to sit back and take it easy and watch the world go by. And that, health-wise and mentally and physically, that's going to end up destroying you unless you're a comfort-oriented retiree and it will work for you. But if you're a growth type of retiree or a giver that likes to give back and help others and things like that, it's going to start to eat you up and it's going to cost you large. So, the advertisers need to change their messaging. And that's why we feel so driven to educate people to say, hey, you got to be aware of this because you could fall into this trap. You're going to end up suffering from retirement shock and you're not going to be able to escape it. And so that's why it's so important. That's why we're driven with this messaging. And employers, but some are waking up. This is the good thing. They're starting to come up with transition programs to help their employees transition to a great lifestyle when they leave the work behind. And, that's one of these employee benefits that, if you really care about your employees, and they all say they do, well, this is the help they're going to need, because retirement transition isn't easy. It's kind of complicated depending on what kind of person you are and how you're wired. And to get help like that, so you can transition and miss out from suffering from retirement shock and having new purpose and being able to hit the ground running in retirement, that's a wonderful thing. That's what we want everyone to benefit from. But it still is going to take a lot of work.
Well, the reason this is sort of under the Health Hub umbrella that we can talk about retirement. I mean, we have mental health, we have physical health, but the other piece of why I do my show is to get across this idea that people need to start taking charge. And this is an area that people need to start taking charge of. We can't rely on other people all the time to take care of our health, nor should we in different aspects of our life, be reliant on other people to guide us to a large extent. I think we all need to be asking the questions, pushing the envelope. And I think we need to change the perspective and take this on ourselves. I think that's an important key to it all, like you have done.
Well, for sure. For sure. Well, because you're in control.
Yes.
You can't blame someone else if you fail at retirement. Because, you can learn, you can educate yourself, and then you can, take the steps that will create a great retirement lifestyle for yourself. But, a lot of people think, they can just read one of my books and whatnot, and that's good enough. No, you have to take action. You have to start building this thing. And, you have to do your homework, and you have to test things out. It takes a lot of work, and people are surprised by that because they're sold on retirement transitions easy, but it's not. It's not for a lot of people. And this past pandemic, gave us a good test of real retirement. When people were isolated and they were stuck in their homes and they couldn't go to work, a lot of them started suffering from mental health issues. And that's what happens in retirement if you're not prepared. The same thing. And it's really sad.
How have your books been received? What feedback have you had in general?
The feedback's been very, very good, because you'll get people that, especially from the ones that have experienced it, don't read a book and they'll go, oh yeah, I felt like that. Oh yeah, that happened to me too. And those are the ones that, it's fun talking with, because we can relate. We know what can happen. And we're all saying, okay, we're going to tell our friends. We're going to tell our friends that haven't retired yet that, hey, you got to be aware of this stuff. And here you have to learn from it and create your own lifestyle that will work for you. It's so important.
How have you set up your retirement lifestyle? Mike is an Ironman. How many Ironmen have you done now?
Oh, three.
Three. And did you start this in retirement, or were you doing this beforehand?
No, I did it back in 2007. And then I got away from it because there were a lot of things happening at work that I had to deal with. And I had a couple of bad bosses, but we won't get into that.
Because we're retired now. We don't have to deal with that.
That's right. We don't have to.
That's a different stage.
That's the beauty of working for yourself.
There you go.
And you know what? When you work for yourself, there's no ageism.
That's right.
That's the path. That was one of the reasons I did it, really, because I didn't want to sit down in front of someone about 30 years younger than me and apply for a job, because you can feel it, right? You can feel it. They're looking at you and they're thinking and whatnot. So I got away from it. But getting back to what happened to me. When I retired, life was good, like I said, for a couple of weeks. And then I got hit by this case of retirement shock. Really, probably
a little sooner than most. 2 weeks doesn't seem like enough breathing time, but it's good for you.
I'm always in a hurry. No, but I'm one of those people that need something to do. Right? Perfect. And I need to be around people. I enjoy being around people, and I needed something. I need goals. A lot of people think you're retired, you don't need goals. Well, that's wrong. A lot of people need goals.
Absolutely wrong.
Yeah. So, when I retired, I started suffering from retirement shock, and that happened for a while. And then I started doing research like I normally do, and I tried to figure things out. And that took me a while. And really, I started writing a journal, and that turned into the first book because it was therapeutic for me. And I kept putting down my thoughts about why I was feeling that way and how I could possibly turn things around. And so by the time I did that, and I ended up writing 3 books, and going through COVID and whatnot, I ended up putting on about 40 pounds. And I thought one day, well, it's great. I write about healthy living and all these things. Meanwhile, 40 pounds overweight. I said, I can't go up on stage and talk about this. They're going to think I'm a hypocrite. So I got this crazy idea. I'm going to go back and train for another Ironman. And so I spent close to a year working on that. And I decided to go down the Ironman Cozumel, which is in November, late in the year. So it gave me a full year to train for the thing. And so I trained hard and went down there and had quite the experience.
Mm-hmm. I think I recall the story.
Yeah, it was really interesting, but it was fantastic at the same time because I did get my health back. I didn't end up losing all the weight that I wanted to do because it's hard to lose weight training for Ironman because you're taking in all this nutrition to prevent injury and help with recovery. But I got very healthy. I got my energy back, and I'm working on losing the rest of the weight right now. So I'm sure that will happen this year. But I loved it because when I went down there, I met a lot of people that retirees that were doing the race too. And I just love their attitude, the way they look at life, and they just laugh at things. Because in Ironman, you're really testing yourself. There's no place to hide because it's just the raw you, and you have to be very determined on what you're trying to do. And I saw these other people like me all trying the same thing. And it was really, fun to see that. And it really changed my mind to say, you know what, health is so important, and no, you don't need to do an Ironman to be healthy, but yeah, to get healthy again and maintain that health is so important.
It's not an easy thing to do. It's not even in the cards, not even entered into my mind to do something like that. I watched how hard you trained. It's not. Congratulations on all that for sure. I want to make sure that we're giving enough space to your newest book here. It is a free. Why did you decide to give this away?
Because what happened is I read a story one day. It was written by a financial planner, and it was about his father. And it talked about his father used to own a company out west somewhere, and he supplied tiles to people. Yeah, for their homes. And, it talked about how, it was a great business, and his father had a lot of fun. His father was very healthy. And as a matter of fact, he was a black belt in karate. He would swim a couple of times a week. I could relate to that because I swim a lot. And he enjoyed playing golf. And, he said to himself, I can't wait. One day I'm going to retire and travel, because he loved traveling too, seeing the world. So he ended up selling his business, I think, in his mid 50s. And to celebrate, he went away for 6 months to the Far East. And when he came back, he started to play a lot of golf. And then one day he changed. He didn't want to play golf anymore, and he didn't want to travel anymore. And he got really miserable. And that's classic retirement shock setting in. And unfortunately, one day his son got a call that his father committed suicide.
Oh.
And his son couldn't understand why that happened. And the reason it happened is that, he lost all those ways of satisfying his fundamental needs, because his identity was tied into his business. He was known in town as the tile guy. Everyone knew him. And he loved working with his employees. He loved dealing with the customers, and it made him feel good. So when he gave that up, it changed his life completely. And it just shows how serious this can be if you don't think it through. Mm-hmm. And you read about a lot of people like that. They're very successful in their past businesses. You read stories about doctors and lawyers and business owners and people, high achievers in the corporate world, that they just fall apart when they retire because they have nothing else to live for, really, in their minds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt the importance to warn people about retirement shock and teach them about what causes retirement shock, and to find ways to get around it, which is really finding new purpose for yourself. So, really we want to prevent that and help people. And I felt it was so important that's when we decided to give it away for free, because I know the deal. I've been through it. My father's been through, he went through it, he suffered for about 2 years. And I had a good friend die from it. He ended up drinking himself to death because he isolated himself up north. So, it's all around us. And with more and more people retiring all the time, it's an important issue that we want to talk more about it, and help people, because this should be the greatest time of your life.
Should be.
Right.
Well, it's very generous of you to do. The one thing, I know we're coming to the end of the show here, the one topic we didn't touch upon, and I do want to give it a little bit of space here, is when you hit retirement, there is that seeping feeling of your mortality coming in to play. Yeah. I think for a lot of people, we did not talk about that, and that's on me. But I think it's an important piece as well. It's not just you're losing your job and you're not seeing friends. It's like, this is the last chapter.
That's right. The last kick at the can.
And that in and of itself can be a hard thing to deal with. So, you pushing this idea of setting yourself up so it should be the best part of your life is important in that. When you're faced with your own mortality, either as a younger person with disease or as an older person thinking that we're coming to the end of life and this is what I have to deal with, that can be it can stop you in your tracks.
Oh, yeah.
It can stop you in your tracks.
If I could just tell you a quick story, and this is another reason why I decided to train for Ironman. I went to see my doctor for my annual physical. And I guess you hit a certain age that things change. The conversation changes. Mm-hmm. So I remember going in there and he says, "Oh, well, now I recommend that you take these extra vaccine shots for flu. I recommend that you look into taking the shingles vaccine. I recommend that you go for ultrasound of your abdomen. I recommend that you go for a colonoscopy." Can I say that right? Colonoscopy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, all these things are hitting you and you go, what happened?
Yeah.
Like last year, I was okay.
Yeah.
This year, I got to start thinking about all these things. And that really threw me off, because that's when you start thinking about your mortality and you're thinking, am I now old? Like, does the medical profession think I'm old because I hit a certain number? And that kind of bothered me. But yeah, it gets into your head and you got to be really careful with that stuff, right?
And preparing ahead of time and understand, and this is also part of the ageism speak. Everybody doesn't hit the age of 60 and all of a sudden things start going down. A lot of people can take advantage of retirement and maybe be the healthiest that they've been in many years. And I think what you're doing and your books and your blog, and you can tell us all about where to find everything. We got to change the picture. We got to change the mindset. And I think with the push that you're making, it's so important, everybody. I highly recommend that you download this book. Mike's got 2 other books. Are they on Amazon, or where can we find Victory Lab?
They're all on Amazon.
Okay.
Even the free ones there, but I suggest you download it for free. Yeah. Why spend $28?
And we do deserve it, right? I mean, you've done your bit. You've contributed to society. You've raised your family. Whatever you have done, this does deserve to be a good piece in your life. And why not plan for it just as you have planned for every other age of your life? It's so important.
Kathy.
You go ahead, sorry.
Just like you said, you paid your dues.
Yeah.
You paid your dues and they were significant. You raised your family, you paid down your mortgage, you did everything you had to do. And now it's your time to shine.
It is.
Right?
Yeah. And, I feel like running through the street with a flag, right? It's our turn.
Yeah,
we've done it all
right.
and give back to us, but again, this is something that I think that we need personally to take a hold of. Don't expect society to give it back to you. You go and get it. Just like you've gone and got everything else in your life, you go grab a good retirement. It's your job to do that.
That's right.
Excellent. Mike, it's been a great conversation. I really, really enjoyed this one. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Kathy.
Everybody, we'll talk to you next week on The Health Hub.
You have been listening to The Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi, here on Radio Maria Canada.